Hello everyone, this is Carla and welcome back to the studio, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Step It Up Saturday. So for this Saturday I will be using the Festive and Fun Cling Stamp Set. Lots of critters that you can color in, and we'll be doing that with our Stampin' Blends. So for my first card, I have a piece of Blueberry Bushel. This measures 8.5 by 5.5 and it's scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of Real Red measuring 4 5/8 by 2 7/8. A piece of Basic White measuring 4.5 by 2 3/4. A piece of Shaded Spruce measuring 3 1/4 by 1. And then a piece of Basic White that measures 3 by 1. So for our cards, I'll be using these primary colors of the blue, red, and green. So to start off, I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. And I'll set that aside. And then for these pieces, I'll be bringing in my Banners Pick-a-Punch, and I'm going to punch the ends. I'm going to use this punch here to create a flag on both my pieces. So I'm going to just push that all the way in and then punch. And I'll set that aside. I'm going to do the same thing with my white piece. Make sure that's in there straight. And punch that. Okay, we're done with that. And then I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet because I'm going to stamp this banner, and it'll be easier to see it when it's on a darker surface. So I'm going to bring in my Memento Tuxedo Black ink and my Blueberry Bushel, and we'll be stamping the giraffe and the Christmas tree. And I'll be stamping this greeting that says, "May your season be one that's festive and fun." And I'm going to stamp that in my Blueberry Bushel. Make sure we got it the right way. Ink that up really well. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp that, and hopefully we'll get it straight right in the middle of this banner. Okay, that's not bad. So we'll close this up. We're done with this one. Okay, and I'll set that aside. And then I'm going to bring in my other basic white piece and my Memento ink, and I'm going to ink up my giraffe. So I'm going to bring the ink pad to the stamp since it's a larger image. Ink this up really well. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp this kind of like in the center. And hopefully we got this straight. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to put this piece of Real Red aside, and now I'm going to color this in, and I'm going to be using my blends. So let me show you what colors I will be using. So I'll be using the medium deep number 400, my dark and light Blueberry Bushel, my dark and light Bubble Bath, my dark and light Daffodil Delight, my dark and light Highland Heather, my dark and light Pool Party, my dark and light Real Red, and my dark and light shaded spruce. So a lot of nice bright colors for this. So this is the part I'm going to speed up. I'm going to color this in and I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in my pieces. So I am going to adhere my colored piece onto the real red. Center that like so. And then for this piece, I'm going to add adhesive on this side of my, I'm going to try to, on this side of the banner. And then I'm going to adhere that on top of my piece of shaded spruce, like so. Okay. And then I'm going to add adhesive to the back of this piece. And I'm going to add that over onto, it's going to be centered but more to the left side of the card base. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. Let me get my scissors. And I'm going to use some of these pieces, these edge pieces. And I'm going to add some to this piece here. Okay, and I'm going to add that over here to the top of my card, right on the top edge. Like so. And then I'm going to bring in my iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. And let's see, I need this as well. So let me bring in my take your pick tool. So I'm going to add a larger one right down the bottom here. And then I'm going to take a medium sized one, put that right above it, and then a smaller one right above that. Okay. And then I'm also going to be using the Real Red and Garden Green 3/8 inch ribbon combo pack. So it's both Real Red and Garden Green. Now I've already gone ahead and tied a garden green bow. So I'm going to bring in my glue dots. And I'm going to add this bow. Right, whoops, the backing's already come off. I'm going to add that kind of like at the base. I'm going to use 2 of them. Push that down. I'll remove the backing. And then I'm going to add my bow right here. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella. And I'm going to add some on this star. And on these ornaments. And then I'm going to, whoops, got one more ornament here. And then I'm going to add some on the fur part of the Santa hat. Okay, so that is our first card. On to our second. Okay, so for my second card, I have an 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4 piece of shaded spruce. I have a 5 1/4 by 4-inch piece shaded spruce. I have a 3.5 by 3.5 piece of basic white, a 3 by 3 piece of basic white, and a 2.5 by 2.5 piece of basic white. So I'm going to start off with folding and burnishing my card base. And I'll set that aside. Now for this piece of shaded spruce, I'm going to be using the Painted Texture 3D Embossing folder. So I'm going to take this and set this aside because I'll be doing all of my coloring and die cutting and embossing all at the same time. So on these pieces, I'm going to be stamping my moose and a beaver, and then the greeting that says, "A little something for you with lots of love from me." And I'm going to stamp those, well, the moose and the beaver, I'm going to stamp those in the Memento Black. I'm just going to stamp those in the center of each piece. Okay. Okay, and then for the greeting, I'm going to bring in my Real Red ink, and I'm going to stamp that in the middle of this piece. Okay, and we'll close up the inks since we're done with those. Now for these three pieces, I'm also going to use, I should have pulled these out first. I'll be using these 3 dies, and they come from the Stylish Shapes dies. So I will color the moose in and then die cut him out of that circle. I will color in this beaver and cut it out with that. And then for my greeting, I will cut it out using the smaller circle die. So I'll set that aside along with these dies. And this is the part where I'm going to speed it up with the coloring and the die cutting and all that. So let me let you know what colors I'll be using, that I'll be coloring with. So I'll be using the deep number 100, the medium deep number 300, the light crumb cake and ivory, the dark and light pecan pie, the dark and light real red, the dark and light shaded spruce, and the light smoky slate. Okay, so I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in all my pieces. So I'm going to adhere this embossed piece of shaded spruce on top of my shaded spruce card base. And just center that on there like so. And then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals, again using up some of these edge pieces. I'm going to put some on the back of these circles. Okay, so move the backings off of that. And then I'm going to place my greeting up in this corner here and get it straight. And then this beaver here, I'm going to put it down in this bottom left hand corner. We're going to kind of have him looking up to the moose. And then we'll put the moose right here. Okay, so I'll press these down. And I'm going to bring in my iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to color these using my dark shaded spruce blend. Add a little bit of green color onto these. I'm going to do a larger one and two of these medium-sized ones. One of the things that you can do with your embellishments, you can color them using your Stampin' Blends. It won't work using the Stampin' Write markers because the color will just come right off of them. But If you use your alcohol marker on there and let it dry for just a moment, they'll be good to go. Now the other thing that I also did out of that that Real Red and Garden Green ribbon combo pack, I went ahead and I tied a little red bow, and I'm going to bring in my glue dots, and I'm going to add 2 of them right down here below the mousse. Remove these paper backings. And I'll place my bow right here. And then I'm going to bring, while these are drying, I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella. And I'm going to add some on the icing. Like that. And then also on the candy cane. Because these images are so small, it's just when you're using your alcohol markers, because the tip is a little bit bigger than these images, I just do a very light dot to put the color where I want it. Okay. And let's see, I'm going to put some on this sweater as well. Okay. And now I'll go ahead and put my rhinestones onto my card. I'll place a larger one there. And we'll put one up here. And then we'll take our other one and we'll put that right down here. Okay, so that is our second card. On to our third. Okay, so for my third card, we're going to be doing some more coloring as well. So to start off, I have a piece of Real Red. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have another piece of Real Red. This measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then I have a piece of basic white. This measures 5 by 3 3/4. So for my card base, I'm going to fold and burnish that. And I'll set that aside. Now, on this piece, I'm going to stamp my, what is that? A rhino. A rhino with a sled of gifts and some birds hanging out. So I'm going to ink this up in my Memento black ink. And I'm going to stamp this and get it into the middle. Okay. And then I do have a greeting that says Happy Christmas Wishes. And I'm going to stamp that in shaded spruce ink. But I'm actually going to die cut this first, and then I'll stamp the greeting up towards the top. So to cut this out, well, first I'll color it. No, actually I'll die cut it first. So I'm going to die cut it with this die, and this comes from the Deckled Rectangles. And I'm going to do a technique that I don't know if you knew about this, but you can actually use your decorative mask as an almost like an embossing folder. So for this piece of Real Red, the formula or the layout for this, in order for it to work, so with using the plates that are from my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, the layout is the base plate, and then one of the cutting plates, so number 3. We're not using this thin, what do they call this one? This is the thin adapter that you use with the die, so we're not using that. So it's your base plate, your cutting plate, and then our silicone mat goes down, and then the piece of cardstock, and then the mask itself, we put that over that piece, and then we use the number 4 3D embossing folder plate, and then we put that on top of that, and then we run it through, and the result will be the snowflake images will appear on that piece of cardstock. It'll be almost like as if you used an embossing folder on it. So I'm going to put that aside because when we do the die cutting and the coloring and this piece, I'm going to do that all at the same time. And let's see, I think I have, oh, and the decorative masks that I am using are the Abundant Beauty decorative masks. And in here, there's a houndstooth design, some fall leaves, and then there's the snowflakes, and then there's 4 pieces to where you can do sunflowers. So let's see what we got here. So we're going to emboss that. We're going to die cut that. Okay, so all right, after I die cut this, and I'm going to color it in with my blends. So the colors that I'm going to be using are the medium number 600, and I'm using the light blueberry bushel, the dark and light lemon lolly, the dark and light parakeet party, let's see, light pool party. I'm using the dark and light shaded spruce, the light and dark smoky slate, the light and dark sweet sorbet, and the dark and light Tahitian tide. So I will be right back. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our card together. So I have already cut a piece of the garden green ribbon, and I am going to bring in my tear and tape, and I'm going to add that to the back of this piece of ribbon. This will make it easier. Put it down on my card base so that way it's not all floppy. Okay, so I'll press that down into the ribbon. Okay, and then we bring in my Take Your Pick tool and remove the paper backing. Okay, and then I'm going to center that. Let's see, which way do we want to do this? I'm going to center that on my emboss piece. Straighten this out. Try and make it straight. Okay. And you can see that by using that decorative mask and using the recipe with the plates, you can see that it embossed it as if I used an embossing folder. So it's a really cool technique. So I'm just going to bring those little tabs onto the back of this piece. And then I'm going to add some of my seal to the back. Okay, and then I'm going to adhere this to my card base, and there's going to be a really, really tiny border around this piece. And we'll press that down. Okay, and then for my colored piece, I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of that. And again, I'm just using the edge pieces from my mini dimensionals. Okay, and then I'm put like 2 more so it's not sagging. Because we don't want saggy bits on our card. Okay, come on. Put that piece there, one here. Press this all down. Okay, and then I'm going to center that on my card base. Make sure that I got to make it straight. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to add this to the wreath. And then I'm going to add it to the presents as well. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my embellishments, the iridescent rhinestone basic jewels, and I'm going to add a few onto my card base. There's one more right there. Okay, so that is our third card. So let me kind of move all the stuff out of the way. So there's our third card. So let me remove this and bring in the cards that we did today. Okay, so we started out with this really simple card. Did some coloring and used the blueberry bushel as the base. And then stepped it up a little bit more. We did this card in the shaded spruce, and we did our moose and our beaver. Just move these so you can see them. And then our third card, we did the rhino on the sled with the cute little blue birds. So I hope you like the cards that we made for this episode of Step It Up Saturday. If you like these cards, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It does help me in building it. So I thank you for joining me, and you all have a blessed one. Bye-bye.